some follow up on this Xbox. We had the photo of the back panel of the Xbox floating around. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? That was last week, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all blur.
Yeah.
Recent history.
Yes. Perennial Microsoft insider Brad Sams has come out with some more information about that thing. That weird wide rectangular port on the back, the one port
that you look at and go like, I don't know what this is.
You don't immediately recognize when you look at it. He, among other people, were saying at the time that was just some kind of custom connector that delivers like diagnostic info to developers, which is super common. Like you remember the Xbox
debug port.
Like the Xbox One X had that little screen on the front of it.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Like they need like profiling info coming out of their games, and people just assume like, oh, that's probably.
So thinking about this now that like he's got a different take on what that port is. Yeah. The more I realize that since the initial Xbox, like a lot of those tools, I feel like have been done over Ethernet.
Yeah, it's possible.
So like all the initial from the very first Xbox, like all the like Xbox neighborhood tools and all that other stuff that
was a weird era because we had debugs in the office back then, which you don't have as much anymore. But it was weirdly easy to get your hands on like the installers for a bunch of the 360 development stuff, and you could totally. Anyway, he says, let me try to find a few weeks back, we got our first look at the backside of the Xbox Series X. At that time, I believed the long rectangular port between the HDMI and the digital audio was for diagnostics, and I was incorrect. That port is for storage expansion, according to people familiar with the company's plans, and offers the Series X a workaround as games continue to expand in size. That's super interesting because that has been a big question about these new machines that nobody's really had a good answer for, is that the types of drives they're talking about putting in these things are not something you can buy in an external like modular format and plug into things, right?
Right. Well, generally, I mean,
they
USB,
absolutely
USB is not going to be, even if you could,
not
USB is not going to be fast enough.
Not even close.
Do what you're trying to do.
Right.
So this is what is this CF Extreme?
Compact Flash Express is one of the ideas proposed for this, but even that is not as fast as the stuff that they're talking about being in these machines.
Maybe if you have external storage, maybe if you have that storage hooked up, it's used as like a cold storage.
Even when people were thinking you would just have USB drives to work with, that idea has been proposed of like, because I mean, like the problem here is like they're talking about games being designed around this ultra fast drive in the thing.
Exactly.
Like you just can't run the installs off of anything else if the games themselves expect like data to be coming in at a certain rate. You just can't do it on anything else.
So CF Express doesn't match that rate?
No, because it tops out at PCI Express Gen 3.
Okay.
And these internal drives, from all available information, are PCI Express 4, which is a pretty big leap in throughput, as far as I know.
Is it possible that there's a next generation
of that
standard?
Or he even, I mean, people, also some of the comments on this story even point out, like, they could be working on a custom thing.
Oh, sure.
Like they could be working on some kind of custom interface that will have the Microsoft brand on it or something like that.
Gross.
Like remember buying 360 hard drives?
Yeah. Yeah, but those were just hard drives in an enclosure.
Well, yeah, but they were still branded. They were still like an official like Microsoft accessory.
I mean, this sounds more like Vita memory.
We could be getting back to that again. It's hard to say.
Oh, no.
But there have been a bunch of questions around this because, you're not going to be able to just go buy an off-the-shelf USB hard drive anymore to run games off of like we've had this generation.
Yeah.
True.
Which raises questions about how big are the default drives in those machines. Because even now, like, what is a full Call of Duty Modern Warfare install? It's
over 100 gigs.
Well over 100 gigs.
Yeah, so
even if the new consoles ship with a terabyte drive, which I feel like is probably the most likely outcome.
I think there's also...
You're talking, 8 games or something, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. I think you could probably make some calculations about, like, which games how many games do people actively play at a time, but I bet that number's gone way up over the course of the last generation.
Yeah.
Just because of live games and battle passes and all this shit.
Totally.
So the My Games and Apps stuff on the Xbox One received an upgrade that actually makes it work.
Yeah, I want to see that, man. That sounds awesome.
I spent some time with it over the weekend. And it works way better, but it almost seems like a magic trick. So the problem with it before was like getting a list of all the games you had, or even just the games you had installed. as someone who has 250 games installed.
I always wonder, like, is that an us problem? Like, are we the edge case exposing these limitations?
Almost certainly, but
because it takes fucking forever to enumerate that page.
But like also, like, especially when you get into backwards compatibility and how that stuff will expand over time, like the library size of more users is going to get up into that territory. So I think my overall library size on an Xbox One is 600, 700, somewhere around there. I forget what it is exactly, but anyway, so that list always just took forever to draw in whenever you would go to look at it, like trying to find, like, oh, I want to install this game. Like, I'm gonna go to my list. Like, oh shit,
you can't even scroll through it smoothly because it doesn't even index like a basic list of stuff that can be loaded.
So they've made pretty good improvements to that part of the experience.
That's good.
The catch now is that when you button into damn near anything to do anything, it's almost like that's where they hide it. You're like, oh, it's going to take me a while before I can actually interact with this, other than just trying to launch it. But like if I want to get data on it or something, like that stuff maybe takes a little longer. Anyway, it is a better experience.
Yeah, it's good that they're thinking about that stuff.
So point being, like there's a tab on there that is new that says there's like a managed storage option for like cleaning up space, and the two things there, one will delete add-ons like DLC for games you don't have installed anymore. So I looked at that and it caught like a bunch of like Tomb Raider DLC that apparently was still sitting on a drive.
Yeah, because sometimes like the DLC can end up installed on a different drive than the base game was on.
Exactly. So there's like a whole, so it ends up weird that way. So it'll find those orphaned files and delete them. And then the second tab was shrinkable games. And basically when I went to that and let it sit there and spin for a good long time, it came back and said like, hey, if you had any games that would be shrinkable, they'd be listed here. But the idea is that like you can shrink a game while having it still be playable is what the implication is there. And I assume that's getting into this idea of let me uninstall the single player.
Right.
Or something.
Just keep the multiplayer.
And so that's why Call of Duty on PlayStation 4 this last year is so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Is because they've got a lot of stuff that rings up like it's DLC for like the survival mode, and now that they're not putting out like DLC map packs, like that stuff just comes as like multiplayer map pack 2. And when you try to hit multiplayer off the main menu, it says you don't have this installed and takes you to a store page where you can download it for free.
So you could just flat out, even right now, delete the campaign and the co-op from Call of Duty?
The co-op, definitely. The campaign might be part of the core install, but
they're getting that they're going in that direction.
Yeah, they're working on ways to make that stuff a little more modular.
That's cool.
They just don't service it in game super well because it's like when you hit it, it says this isn't installed. We're going to install it. They're like no. Or it doesn't tell you from the main menu this is not currently installed or something. So there's like better messaging that games could do around that stuff.
It's good to have though. It's good that they're moving in that direction for sure.
And it's not also entirely unlike. Was it MKX on PC that did the thing where the whole game rang up in Steam as like 30 different DLC packages?
I think that's right.
That sounds
and it was a mess at launch. It was like super fucked up.
I think they were experimenting with like letting you play bits of it while other parts were still downloading and stuff.
Like just having a better process of like getting up and running with some of the game.
It didn't work out very well.
No. But like those are the sorts of things that are going to get more solidified and
they're going to have to
and lock down
using this kind of not easily portable and more expensive storage.
Like that policy will probably take much greater shape and offer a lot more flexibility to developers in the coming generation.
Yeah.
It'll have to because that's just the realities of the drive size and all other stuff. Like everything is heading there.
Yeah. It seems like they could be doing something with this. Like that's like I said, that's kind of a question nobody's had an answer for.
It does seem like they could be doing something with this. You mean the external drive stuff?
Yeah, they could be moving in the direction of like offering some expansion drive that they sell.
The worry there is that like I think even the current CF Express.
That's this
like even the current generation of that, even if it was that, the stuff we know exists, like that stuff's super expensive. So the more proprietary you get, it's not like that stuff gets cheaper, right? I mean,
one of the comments on the story mentioned that the CF Express stuff right now is like such a niche thing that it's only in like high-end photography and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like mega expensive. Just it's one of those things where they can charge that much
enough because professionals are
because only a few people who have the money to pay for it.
Right.
Those cards are fucking expensive.
Right. Like this says a 512 gig CF Express card is $600 right now.
God, could you imagine?
What were we paying for P2 cards 10 years ago?
But at the same time, look at like NVMe drives on PC are getting into the you can get a good 1 terabyte one for $160, $170.
Yeah.
And that stuff is as fast, if I'm not mistaken.
Also, the pins and connectors for like those CFast cards are
So
super
fragile.
finicky.
Huh.
Like if you just jam it in without like properly aligning everything, you could fuck up the whole thing.
Wow. Huh. Yikes.
Yeah, that sucks.
That sounds dodgy.
Yeah, you could like spend like $7,000 on a camera and fuck up the whole thing.
Yeah. But there's stuff going on in the PC space also with these super fast drives. Like there's this U.2 specification. I don't know if you guys have seen. It's basically a way to have an NVMe drive in what is normally like a SATA form factor, like a separate drive with a cable, instead of having to bolt it straight onto the motherboard. So
Perfect.
they're getting into modular design for this stuff so that Microsoft and Sony could harness that and hopefully solve this problem.